Psalm chapter 2 is a majestic piece of prophetic literature that paints a vivid picture of God's sovereign rule over the nations and his anointed king. Verse 9 of this psalm, in particular, carries significant weight as it speaks directly to the power and authority that God bestows upon his Son, Jesus Christ. Understanding this verse is key to grasping the broader biblical narrative concerning the Messiah's reign and his ultimate victory over rebellion. You shall break them with a rod of iron. You shall dash them to pieces like a potter's vessel. These words are addressed to the Son, whom the preceding verses identify as the one installed by God as King on Zion, his holy hill. This imagery is potent and multi-layered, representing divine judgment and the absolute authority of the Messiah. The use of a rod of iron in this context is symbolic of unbending, unyielding authority. Iron, being a strong and durable metal, suggests that the reign of the Messiah will not only be characterized by strength, but also by permanence. This depiction aligns with the biblical anticipation of a kingdom that will not fade or succumb to corruption, a kingdom established by God himself through his Anointed One. Furthermore, the action of breaking and dashing to pieces like a potter's vessel illustrates the ease with which the Messiah will conquer and subdue his enemies. Pottery, once shattered, cannot be restored to its original form. This irreversible destruction symbolizes the final and complete judgment that will befall the rebellious nations of the earth who refuse to submit to God's ordained ruler. It is a stark reminder of the fate awaiting those who oppose the divine will. This verse, therefore, is not just a declaration of the Messiah's might, but also serves as a warning to the rulers and inhabitants of the earth. The preceding verses of Psalm chapter 2 call out the rulers who plot in vain against the Lord and his anointed, urging them to serve the Lord with fear and rejoice with trembling. The reference to breaking with a rod of iron reinforces the futility of resisting God's plan. It underscores the inevitability of divine justice and the supremacy of God's appointed king. In the larger biblical context, this imagery is echoed in the book of Revelation, where the Messiah is depicted as ruling the nations with a rod of iron. Revelation chapter 2, verse 27, chapter 12, verse 5, and chapter 19, verse 15. This consistent portrayal across the scriptures emphasizes the truth of God's unchanging purpose and the certainty of his promises. It affirms that God's plan for the world culminates in the establishment of his kingdom through his Son, who will rule justly and decisively. For believers, this verse serves as both a comfort and a call to faithfulness. It comforts us by affirming the ultimate triumph of God's kingdom, reassuring us that despite the apparent chaos and evil in the world, God remains sovereign and his plans are secure. It calls us to faithfulness by reminding us of the importance of aligning ourselves with God's purposes, recognizing the authority of his Messiah, and responding with appropriate humility and reverence. It also challenges believers to reflect on the nature of Christ's rule as characterized by both justice and mercy. While the psalm highlights the aspect of judgment, the broader scriptural narrative portrays the Messiah as a shepherd who cares for his flock and seeks to restore the lost. This dual aspect of Christ's rule invites us to hold in tension the realities of God's justice and his grace, leading us to live in a manner that honors him as our King. Moreover, this verse has significant implications for how we understand our witness to the world. Knowing that Christ will ultimately judge and rule the nations with absolute authority motivates us to proclaim his lordship and extend the invitation to others to acknowledge him as King. It compels us to live in the light of his imminent return, striving to be ambassadors who reflect his values and advance his kingdom purposes. Psalm chapter 2, verse 9 offers a profound insight into the nature of God's rule through his Son. It captures the essence of his unassailable authority, the certainty of his judgment, and the permanence of his reign. As believers, we are called to embrace this truth, letting it shape our understanding, our worship, and our mission. In doing so, we affirm our commitment to the God who is sovereign over history and who has revealed his purposes through his word. This assurance drives us to live with purpose and hope, anchored in the promise of his eternal kingdom.